We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Good evening. It's a pre-recorded show with Ask Gibbo tonight. How are you, John?
I'm very good, mate. Very good. Waiting to get stuck into them at Wembley at the weekend.
Yes, cannot wait, mate. Fantastic. We will be, of course, looking ahead to the Carabao Cup final on this show today. But let's first of all look back on a win, another win in London, John. God, it's not so long ago that Newcastle United couldn't buy a win in London. But it seems to be such a happy hunting ground for us now. A 1-0 win at West Ham. Bruno Guimaraes, the match winner on the night. A solid performance going into a cup final. We had to win, John, just to get the confidence levels flying high on and off the pitch.
Capital win, capital result, and back to the capital. I mean, what more can you want? As you say, we used to be reporting on how many games it was in London without a victory, wasn't it? And getting into double figures. And now we go down to Spurs, we go places and win, and that's great. It was so necessary. I'm not saying it was necessarily pretty. It was dug out, but it was disciplined. And, you know, defeat was unthinkable in Wembley week, Steve. There's no way we could contemplate a defeat and then crawling back into the capital to go to Wembley. We had to win so that we had a bit of a jaunty stride. And when you combine that with what happened to Liverpool the following night, I mean, they get knocked out of the Champions League. They've got to play 2 hours of exhausting failure with extra time. They get an injury. Trent Alexander-Arnold will probably keep him out of Wembley, and a little bit balanced with the 3 we've got out. So the pendulum, which had swung violently against us with all the injuries and the results and what happened to Anthony Gordon, maybe has just swung that little bit in our favour. Perhaps I'm clutching at straws, and perhaps I want to clutch at straws. But the balance seems to be a little bit more even now than it was. We are on a little bit up. They'll be looking at each other and thinking, crikey me, our world, well, we're going to win 4 trophies a short while back. Now we're out the FA Cup, we're out the Champions League. Okay, they're going to win the Premier League by the length of Northumberland Street, but let them not be greedy bairns. If they're going to win that, concentrate on that, and we'll win the League Cup.
Yeah, it was a good performance, good solid performance, a clean sheet. The goalkeeping situation is one we've talked about for it seems like all season really, because Martin Dubravka, of course, came back in with Nick Pope's injury, and since then, with Pope's return, it's been flick a coin and decide who you're going to pick, Eddie. Well, now the moment is upon us, a cup final. Did Nick Pope do himself any harm on Monday night, or did he do himself the biggest favour? Has Eddie already decided he's going to pick Dubravka? It's $1 million question. But
it's probably the only question I think that's left, Steve, because I think Harvey Barnes probably played himself into the cup final side, not by being wonderfully wonderful, but he did the assist. And, what's the option? Probably just Willock, because you don't want to disturb Joe Linton out of the midfield three. They're so important. So the one decision left is the goalkeeping one. And it's an agony one, isn't it? Because 2 years ago, they both missed out. For them, I mean, it's an agony one for them. Because Pope missed out with a red card 2 years ago. Dubravka missed out 2 years ago because he played in an early round for Man United. We ended up with a third choice keeper. One of them is going to miss out again because sitting on the bench is not the same thing. And it's intriguing as to what you would do and which one you would play. Pope didn't do himself any harm, obviously, because he kept a clean sheet. But I think I would feel very sorry for Dubravka if he doesn't play, because he stayed with us. When he was called in with Pope injured, he did magnificent for us. We were winning. He sacrificed a huge payday, his final pension in Saudi, to stay with us in this competition, and he's been a loyal servant for ages. But we park loyalty and emotion to one side because you've just got to pick your best side. But at the moment, he's as good a shot stopper as Pope, and I think he's better with his feet. I think he's better with his feet, Steve. So if we want to play the ball out from the back quickly and get a high press on Liverpool, which Paris Saint-Germain did magnificently against them, then there's something to be said for Dubravka playing. And it's a heck of a decision to make. And because we know that Eddie can be loyal to his players, and he's always seen Pope as his number one. But at the same time, he's got to want to win this cup and park sentiment to one side. It'll be very, very intriguing. I would personally just go for Dubravka. But of course, the only thing that matters is how Eddie sees it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Nick Pope didn't do himself any harm on Monday night. I think, honestly, John, I just think it's when Pope's in goal, he slows the game down. Forget about the kicking. Like we know over the years, some goalkeepers are better shot stoppers than they are distribution with their feet, and vice versa. But I think he slows the game down, Nick Pope. It might just be because we all feel, he's a bit dodgy at the minute, Nick Pope. I think fans get a bit nervous, but we all feel like the defence gets nervous, John, when we're watching it.
I know. Now, there's some people who would say, let's slow the game down if they're going hell for leather at you, Liverpool. But I'm not in that camp. I think to have a chance against Liverpool, we've got to play our game, not let them play their game. And our game is front foot, it's attacking, high press, high octane. Let's go at them. And I think that Dubravka is slightly more suited to that than the other guy. I've stated on here in the past, Steve, I think that we'll get the perfect answer in the summer, because I think they will buy a goalkeeper, and I think it'll almost certainly be James Trafford. But that's for another day. This is for Wembley. And for me, the only decision left to be made is your goalkeeping decision. And I would, if it was up to me, go with Dubravka. It's not up to me, and really it's anybody's guess. And if we go on the famous line of, well, we'll find out something at the press conference on Friday, we know we won't. Do you think for 1 second Eddie Howe is going to tell you who on Friday who's going to play in goal at Wembley? Not a cat in that very difficult place. There's no chance of that happening whatsoever. We'll find out when we get the team sheet now and a bit before the kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it? It's it's going to be very cat and mouse now as to what we're told, and that suits us down to the ground. We don't want to give away any of our state secrets. We don't want to give away any kind of advantage to Liverpool, and vice versa. They won't want to do that either.
They won't tell us anything about Trent Alexander-Arnold being out of the final or whatever at their press conference, because they want Newcastle to keep trying to second guess that. So it will be what it always is. oh, we've got to check later today. They haven't trained yet. We'll see them in training, see how he feels when he gets up in the morning and he's had his chucky egg, etc., etc. But that's fine. We know the team down there. It's either Pope or Dubrovka and the other 10. I think it more or less picks itself then.
Let's chuck into the mix as well. Young Sean Neve, congratulations to him for making it into the first team pool. He was named on the bench for the first time in a Premier League game against West Ham. 17-year-old striker, John. We've seen some young uns named over the years on the bench. Steve Watson springs to mind. Young Sean Longstaff, of course, and Matty Longstaff. Lewis Miley, obviously the most recent youngster who's broken through. It would be great, wouldn't it, if I had one of one striker coming through, a young striker coming through?
Right. Well, it certainly would, and a striker, because they are gold. They are gold, a quality striker, and it would be terrific and good for him. And I hope he has a wonderful career, and it's with us and smashing to get onto the bench. And I mean, crikey, he can easily be in the squad that goes to Wembley. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute we're going to put him on and he's going to score the winning goal, though if he wants to, I won't mind. But it could well be part of that Wembley setup, and what a wonderful moment for the kid.
Yeah, certainly was. The other things to consider from that game the other night were, I mean, when you see the team announced, some people were going, that's what cup final team, that's what cup final team. Other people were going, nah, not in a million years. That's not, and again, that comes back down to the fact that, it is a complete guessing game and will be kept guessing until an hour before kickoff. But obviously the injury to Lewis Hall has meant that there has to be a change at full back. What did you make of Tino Livramento at left back, John?
Well, I mean, it's tough on the kid because he's a right back and he's a young man and he's trying to make his way. And then you suddenly ask him to play on the other side. Now, I know you could swap them round and you could put Trippier there, left back, where he's played for England, and leave Livramento at right back. But I don't think Trippier at 34, who did well, I thought, on the night and playing right back, and he is a right back, but of course his legs are going slightly. I don't think he's going to thank you very much if you suddenly stick him on the left side and he's faced with Mo Salah, is he? He's going to say, "Let's a young man's life world now. You get out there and you deal with Salah, my friend." So, I mean, and then what's the alternative? Apart from switching the fullbacks round, Trippier and Livramento, you're talking about Matt Targett. And I don't think there's any chance whatsoever of Matt Targett starting the cup final. I really don't. I do think we'll go with Trippier right back and Livramento left back. Yes, we can say this happened with Livramento. He's not so confident. He's not that. We know all that sort of thing. It's Hall's position. It's not his. But I think, needs must, and I think that's what it'll be. And the midfield three will be the midfield three, and I think Barnes will get the outside left slot. So yes, there's options, but I don't think he'll take them at this stage. The only option where he looks as if he's genuinely considering A or B is in goal, I think.
Got to ask you about your feelings on Sandro Tonali, John. The much publicised, ban, which robbed us of a star signing for an entire season. He's come in and, he's really took the Premier League by storm for me. I know we've pointed to the likes of Lewis Hall, Dan Burn, who's had another renaissance season, but you look at Tonali and when you think about the games that he's played this season already, he's settled right in, and he's just a class act, John.
Yeah, absolutely. What people forget is this man is the second costliest signing in Newcastle United's history. There's only Isaacs cost more money than Sandro Tonali, and his resurrection has been nothing short of wonderful and terrific to see, because he came in, he was a sensation on the opening day against Aston Villa last season in his debut, when he scored before we settled in our seats. And we had a wonderful win, 5 goals that day. And then I thought he tapered something, Steve, in that first season. I think he tapered off a little bit. I think it was tough for him. He couldn't speak English. He hadn't wanted to leave AC Milan, which was the love of his life. He had to for financial fair play situation. involving them. He had come to another country. He didn't know his teammates, etc., etc. It was very, very tough for him. And then all of a sudden, out of his own country, he gets hammered with this accusation about betting, and he ends up getting 10 months. Now, that could have sunk him. That could have been the end of Tonali, and we were going to have to sell him back on the cheap to Italy at the end of the suspension. Instead of which, he proved his moral fibre. He got stuck into learning the language during that 10 months. He integrated with his teammates through training all the time. And he certainly felt the love of the crowd that regularly, Steve, as we remember, sang his name from the terraces, etc., etc. And he suddenly felt loved. And what we got at the end of that was a totally different man. When the 10-month ban started, he was unrecognizable at the end of the 10-month ban because he was a different player. Now, when we moved him from putting him back in the right-sided midfield to a central role, sitting in front of two centre-halves, releasing Bruno to do what Bruno wants to do, which is get on his bike and get forward, he has looked an absolutely magnificent player, Tonali, and he is a proper international. And I think they've cup final, we talk about Isaac, who is 100% effective for us and our man of the moment, our go-to man for goals, as Mo Salah is for them. But I honestly think the match will be won and lost in the midfield. Their platform is the midfield with McAllister, the centre stage guy, and terrific outriders. They have got gladiators in their midfield, Liverpool. But so have we. We've got two Brazilian internationals, Big Joe, who's got rid of a bit of rust through playing a couple of games after being out injured, Big Joe and Bruno, and Tonali sitting in the middle of them. That is a quality midfield. You look at that. When they're on the pump, those three midfielders, not much better in the Premier League. And if they can they haven't been disturbed by the injuries and suspension. They're still there on block, and they can push us on towards getting the result we want. And Tonali has been absolutely outstanding, and I'm delighted for that, because if ever somebody showed, and his body language is so different. He looks as if he's living life now, doesn't he? He looked almost depressive when he first come, I felt. But he has really risen to the challenge and has been terrific for us. And he is seasoned. I mean, he was he conquered Europe virtually with AC Milan. He's in the Italian international side, played at Wembley, and has played at all the big stages. This final's made for Tonali.
Certainly is. We'll look at the final after the ads. Just want to talk about the away form, John. Some interesting stats, really, over the course of the last couple of days that I've been reading. Newcastle sit 7 points and 4 places ahead of where they were last season after 28 games. 47 points in 6th compared to 40 points in 10th, which was last year's place in 2024. We've recorded our 7th Premier League away win of the season, which is one more than we managed last season. And we've only won more games on the road in a 38-game Premier League campaign 3 times in 27 seasons. 9 in 2001-2, 8 in 2011-12, and 22-23, respectively. Away form, John, it's better than our home form this season. Why do you think that is?
Well, first and foremost, that's quite incredible. In the course of 9 days, we won at Spurs, Manchester United, and Arsenal. And when you read those figures out, Steve, if what our away form has been in the Premier League, I presume that was just the Premier League. And it doesn't include a sensational win at Arsenal in the League Cup at Arsenal, 2-0, remember?
Yeah.
You know, we have won at Arsenal this season. We've twice won at Nottingham Forest this season, and everybody's hailing them as the wonder side of this Premier League season. We've played them 3 times, beaten them 3 times, and twice was at their place. The away form has been terrific. I think probably one of the things, apart from the mental situation where Newcastle used to think, play at St James's Park in front of 50,000 Geordies, it's a fortress, They are the famous saying, they're our 12th man, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, you forget that and you think, wait a minute, when we go away, the game often suits us better, Steve, than at home. Because the way we are at our best is a team comes on to us, and with the pace we've got, we counter at pace, catch them out and score. The pace we've got on the wings, the two wingers, I mean, Gordon's very, very quick, Murphy's very, very quick, Isaac's quick. We'll get the ball quickly moved forward. Tonali never looks to pass square. He looks to pass forward if he can. And the pace we've got from the fullbacks with Hall and Livramento, I think it suits playing away where teams are forced to come on to us because at home the emphasis is on them to set the pace of the game. It suits us better than it's in James's Park, where sides can sit in on us. And have we got enough about us on occasions when sides sit in on us to break them down? So I think the type of football we play and are best at actually happens when you're playing away. And let us, when we're grasping at these straws and other straws, they're facts. Let us remember we're playing away on Sunday.
Exactly. Are you superstitious, John? I mean, the cup final, you would imagine Liverpool will play in red, Newcastle will play in their traditional black and white.
Yes. It's not a matter of superstition with that. It's a matter of I'm a magpie. I'm a Geordie, you're a Geordie, we're magpies. And I want to see Newcastle on the big stage, not playing in a away strip or something like that. I want to see them playing in black and white stripes. And they will play in black and white stripes, and so they should. If we win the first pot in 70 years, and it'll go in the history books and the photographs will be shown. We still see Jimmy Schooler, don't we? We're first domestic pot in 55. We keep forgetting about 69. Let's forget that. But, Bob Moncur in 69, Schooler in 55, Joe Harvey in 51 and 52. Those pictures, I can see them in my mind's eye now. They're in every book. They're on every wall, in the stadium, etc., etc. And there will be this time. You want them in black and white, don't you? And no, I don't feel we're jinxed, because since I was a little lad and watched my Newcastle win in 55 with my little grey shorts on and my school satchel, I've sat through 5 finals, and we've lost all 5 Wembley finals. That takes Budapest out. 5 Wembley finals. I've sat through 5, and we've lost all 5. And we've scored 1 goal in those 5, Steve, and that was Alan Gowling's in the 74 League Cup final, the first League Cup final we were ever in. That's the only goal we scored in all our time. It's about time that changed, and this would be a good time to start that.
Well, I'll tell you why I asked you that. Here's a stat, John. I like me stats, and this is a good one.
You do, mate. You do, and you've got them all at your fingertips here. Go on.
Newcastle remain unbeaten at the moment in their white and green change kit after 5 games. 1-1 at Bournemouth, 0-0 at Everton, 1-1 at Crystal Palace, 4-0 at Ipswich, and 1-0 now at West Ham. Would you play in green and white at Wembley?
Certainly not. Our big advantage at Wembley is that we've got Isaac and the 3 midfield players, not the colour of the strip on our back. We are zebras, and I want to win the cup as a zebra, and we will win the cup as a zebra. So, no, I don't want to play in that shirt. I am superstitious on some things. Like when I was with Gateshead, if I wore something at a match and we won, I would wear it the next match when I owned Gateshead. And I'm superstitious with Newcastle. You see players who've got to run out third in the line, all that sort of thing. But no, I'm a Geordie and I'm a black and white, and I want to play in that. And I don't think a green strip will make we win at Wembley. I think Isaac and Tonali and Bruno and Big Joe will make us win at Wembley.
Okay, great stuff. We are halfway through the show. We'll have a quick ad break. Back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Clooney, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com. Also want to give a shout out to this event that's been run by Danny Mitchell. It's an evening with John Beresford at the Crown Plaza in Newcastle on Friday the 25th of July, 7:30 till 10:30. It's a VIP meet and greet. It's £35 and the standard tickets are £25. All tickets include pie, peas and a beer. That's the QR code there if you want to buy a ticket. And your host with the most is our very own John Gibson, who will be working that one. So get yourselves along. Should be a really good night. Something to do in the summer hours. You like doing these, John. It's always good for you to get in with the entertainers and have a chat with them, isn't it? You're obviously going to be doing the Les Ferdinand one in April as well.
Good fun. Terrific guys. Must still be remembered, Steve, that they have got the greatest Premier League finish since 1927, when we won the Champions of England, which is almost 100 years ago. The Entertainers finished second top of the Premier League 2 successive seasons in the 90s, and that's been our best finish. That's got to be a target to be aimed at by Eddie Howe and the Saudis, etc., etc. But let's get the first trophy out of the way first, and that's Sunday.
Financial results came in, John, since we last did our show. The club's revenues have increased from 140.2 million in 2021 to 320.3 million in 2023. I mean, it's a hell of a jump, that, John, isn't it? It shows that despite the frustrations of various transfer windows in the last few years, commercially, Newcastle are turning the club right around from those Mike Ashley days.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, that took some doing, because we were run so far down that you were starting from as low as a snake's belly. So you've got a long way to bring them up, and a long way still to go, naturally, to get anywhere near the huge financial establishments in this country, like Man U, Arsenal, etc., etc. and it'll take a new stadium and things like that to keep us going. But the figures are good; they're encouraging. The words from Darren Eales were encouraging. The transfer window of the summer, because there's no question, regardless of what happens at Wembley, that we need extra players in this summer. We haven't done any for the last 3 windows. If we are going to make steps forward, because standing still is actually going backwards. If we stand still and do nothing, you're actually going backwards. So, the resounding words of Darren Eales have got to be turned into action this summer with and it's a new cycle, Steve, as you know. It's the beginning of a new 3-year cycle. The other 3-year cycle, where they work out the figures, is gone. It's completed. So let's look for a good summer. But as I said before that, there's plenty to play for right now, Steve, because that win at West Ham keeps us battling for Europe through the Premier League places. And of course, we've got the small matter of the Cup on Sunday. So the season's far from dead. Let's concentrate on the season and then look in the summer what we can do to make next season even better.
Newcastle United also announced season ticket prices last week when we came off air. 5% increase on standard adult tickets. That applies at St James's Park. It's hardly a shock, of course, given the current PSR pressures. But it is a further unwanted drain on resources for a lot of supporters, John.
Yeah, it is. It's a heck of a business. You never know where you are. On what's best for the club. On one side, you've got to think of your supporters, and on the other side, you've got to think about increasing your financial revenue, and the cost of living, everything increases. The sadness, and it's obviously for another day in another program, Steve, but the sadness is this: football was known as the working class sport, wasn't it? And rugby was for the toffs, and rowing was for the toffs, although not when Harry Casper was around. But this is a working class sport. But is it a working class sport anymore? Because the cost is so huge. But that's where we were all about. But the fans seem last on the pecking order. I'm not having to go at Newcastle. It's not a huge lift in money, and it's understandable. I get more agitated when I see what television does with the fans when they mess about the kickoff times and when we'll play and all that. I mean, that is absolutely atrocious, I mean, what do they want, the television people? Do they want to play matches when television wants it in front of empty stadiums because fans can't be there? Fans are the lifeblood of football, and they need them to make the atmosphere. But that don't get me on that high horse. That's for a different day.
I mean, the one thing I'll praise Newcastle for is there's been no increase in junior ticket prices again, which means that the current range of concessionary prices will continue to be offered, which is in contrast to a few of the other Premier League clubs who've axed price categories such as young persons, which is a credit to Newcastle. It's unfortunately it's fans who can afford it are going to get hit. 1892 club tickets are increasing from £635 to £1,083. So that's £33 a game to £57 a game, which is a huge jump. And people's pockets are going to be tested, but that's the price of success, I'm afraid. And there is a waiting list, I guess. It's in James's Park, and if you can't afford it, then somebody else will, and that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, isn't it, John?
It is. It's the nature of life. I mean, the good thing is looking after the kids. That's something that's a massive plus, and well done, Newcastle United, on that, because that's your fan base of tomorrow, aren't it? The kids of today is your fan base of tomorrow, who will become adults and bring their kids up to love Newcastle as much as we have done. And so it's encouraging young people to not have to watch Newcastle United on the telly sitting at home, but actually go in, because whatever you see on the telly, Steve, I don't know about you, and I'm certain you feel the same as I do here, there's nothing like being alive at a match. There's much more atmosphere, there's much more feeling of the vibrancy, there's much more blood brothers with the rest of the fans and with the team. You get so much more inside St James's Park than you do sitting in front of the box in your own house on the settee or down the pub.
Yeah, certainly do. Okay, let's look ahead to the Cup final, Carabao Cup final. Liverpool are the opposition. It's a 4:30 kickoff this coming Sunday. If the score is level after 90 minutes, 30 minutes of additional time will be played, and if that fails to divide the sides, then a penalty shootout will take place. There is a public space protection order around Wembley, which means that consuming alcohol anywhere except licensed premises is an offence, in particular on street drinking. There are similar regulations on the underground, so please be aware of that. Pubs in the immediate area are also unable to show the final live on TV, which is due to licensing restrictions. Team news, bit early for it, as we are pre-recording this on Wednesday, but we do know, of course, Anthony Gordon suspended, and Lewis Hall, Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles are all injured. As for Liverpool, well, they will be licking their wounds after going out of the Champions League. It did look as if Trent Alexander-Arnold had an injury which could keep him out of the final. Konate, I'm not so sure whether he'll miss out. He looked as if it was more,
fatigue, I think.
Yeah, fatigue rather than an injury. Joe Gomez and Conor Bradley are out injured, and it's all to play for on Sunday. Arne Slot, Liverpool's manager, returns to the touchline following his 2-game domestic ban. Obviously, we know they went out the Champions League in their Premier League game of the weekend. They made hard work of beating Southampton. They eventually ran out 3-1 winners, but found themselves 1-0 down in that game. But that is now 6 domestic games unbeaten since their FA Cup defeat at Plymouth. In the Premier League only, Liverpool have now won 21, drawn 7 and lost 1 so far this season. Huge game this. With a huge game like this, you need a referee who can manage a game properly. We've got John Brooks. It's the Leicestershire official. It's his 3rd Newcastle game of the season. That follows on from the 1-0 Premier League home win over Arsenal and the 2-0 semi-final first leg success against Arsenal at the Emirates. Brooks has taken charge of a Newcastle-Liverpool fixture before, and that was in 2023 at St James's Park. Liverpool, who were under the guidance of Jurgen Klopp, then won by 2-1, and that was a game where Brooks sent off Virgil van Dijk. You remember, I think it was Nunes came on and scored 2 late goals to break Newcastle United's hearts. There is VAR in the final, and that is Stuart Atwell who is in charge of that. As you know, there is TV coverage of this. If you're unable to watch on TV, you will be able to listen to it on BBC Radio 5. Lee Clark will be doing the commentary on Talk Sport, and local radio, of course, covers it. BBC Radio Newcastle will be covering it as well. This is our 17th visit to Wembley as far as cup finals are concerned, and playing games at Wembley. One of them, of course, included the 1-0 win at Liverpool, which you've heard me talk about on here many, many times, in the Mercantile Credit Classic Trophy, where Neil MacDonald got the winning penalty.
I've forgotten about that. You've raised me spirits there, Steve.
But there we go. I often recall it, and I actually uploaded on the website on YouTube. Sorry, I uploaded Charles Harrison's commentary of that game on here just to prove to people it did actually happen. I recorded it. My dad recorded it when I was at Wembley. Typical of Newcastle, though. We did go on that day to play Tranmere in the quarterfinals, and we lost 2-0 to Tranmere. Only Newcastle could do that. But yes, John, exciting times. It's another cup final, and I've just got a feeling this could be different, mate.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's gone from the height of despondency, like, say, a week or 10 days ago when we were in poor form. We'd been knocked out the FA Cup. This was before the West Ham result. And we were without 3 key players, where form was indifferent, and they were flying high. All of a sudden, they're out of the Champions League. They've had 2 hours of football in tired legs a day after we played, and they could be without their England right back. And they haven't got another right back, really, because the other guy's injured as well, if Trent Alexander-Arnold is out. We've got to still remember that Liverpool are Premier League champions elect. They've only lost 1 game in 29 in the league. They are going to win the biggest prize domestically of the lot. So we know what we're up against. But hey, I like being an underdog. I like having a siege mentality, which I'm certain Eddie Howe will be fostering every day in the training ground in Benton. Never say never. I mean, I wanted a lift before we won at West Ham and they lost against Paris Saint-Germain. I wanted a lift, and I looked at where is it where the underdog wins? Because in the bookies' eyes, we are the underdog on Sunday, and in every neutral's eyes, we are the underdog on Sunday. But Manchester City, the best team of recent years, without a shadow of doubt, went to Wembley last year in the FA Cup final as Premier League champions and lost to Manchester United, the noisy neighbours who are absolutely hopeless. Yeah, about 10 years or something before that, Manchester City went to Wembley and were facing Wigan Athletic, who were already relegated, and they lost. Wigan beat them. Leicester City won the Premier League title when they had absolutely no right to. Buster Douglas tucked up Mike Tyson, boxing. We know about the boxing, Steve. Buster Douglas tucked up Mike Tyson when that wasn't possible. And a little fat Mexican called Rios bit Joshua, who was chiseled like a man mountain and was unbeaten at the time. The unlikely happens. It happens regularly. And while I would think we're better than the unlikely, we are the underdogs. But there's no reason why we can't win. And if things go right for us on the day, and Lady Luck stops turning her back on us, which she's done regularly recently, we can get a result. We've got a strong midfield. We've got Isaac, who is absolutely terrific. We've got Livramento maybe playing on his wrong side, but he's a young England international. We've got Trippier having his last hurrah as far as a Wembley Cup final is concerned. And isn't he going to want it like there's no tomorrow? We are a good side when we play well. We've got to remember that we've beaten Arsenal 3 times, we've beaten Nottingham Forest 3 times. We're not just a bunch of no-hopers turning up to be cannon fodder for Liverpool. And I've just got a feeling that pendulum, which swung very much in the direction against us, is beginning to swing back that little bit. And I honestly believe that we can end this long wait come Sunday tea time.
Yeah, I would agree. In cup meetings, incidentally, the two sides stand neck and neck with 5 wins apiece and a draw. And if you factor in that 1988 Mercantile tournament penalty success at Wembley, John, we're actually one ahead.
Well, there you are. Well, we can't be superstitious then and think that everything's going our favour. We can be superstitious with the referee, can't we? Hasn't he done well for us in the past? You said the only one that he didn't was when we lost 2-1 to Liverpool at St James's Park, and then he even tried to help us by sending Dick Van Dyke off, didn't he? I've got hope for us. I am realistic. I know what we're facing. It isn't easy by any means. But this is not a foregone conclusion for Liverpool, not by any means. And we will have a siege mentality that the whole world's against us, that the rest of the country think we're just turning up there to be cannon for the wonderful Liverpool. Everybody will be on about Mo Salah rather than Isaac, and we are just there to make up the numbers. Let them think like that, and I certainly hope Liverpool think like that, because if they had it tough against Paris Saint-Germain, here come the Geordies over the brow of the hill to make it tough for them again a second time in a few days.
John, what's it like to be part of a Newcastle United trophy win? You were there, 69. You saw it ringside. What is it like, mate?
Well, I mean, I'm the only journalist that's still working on the NUFC beat that actually reported on our last trophy win, which was 1969 in Budapest. It was absolutely fabulous. I mean, the whole run of that tournament was unbelievable because we were all, the press lads, the team, the manager, the fans, we were all naive. We hadn't done this before. We hadn't any fear. We just went into games. We We were playing Waterstones, who were the best side in Europe at that time by a million miles. They'd beaten Leeds United, who were the champions of England, home and away. And we beat them home and away. 6-2 on aggregate, 3-0 here, 3-2 there. And I remember there was a long time between the two finals because it was a two-legged final. And I remember thinking, we're 3-0 up. It was a funny situation, Steve, because 3-0 in some ways is dangerous because you just think, well, it's all over. We're winners. And then all of a sudden you might not be. So there was and I remember half time in Budapest, I sat next to Len Shackleton, who, the great Len Shackleton, 6 goals for Newcastle on his debut, that business with Sunderland. And we said, oh, we can't lose the cup now. Surely we were 2-0 down. So a 3-0 advantage was 3-2. And we felt we could, and we won it. And the celebrations we went back to the hotel, which was on an island in the Danube. It was on top of everything else. There was 2 of the guys. It was their birthday that day. It was Joe Harvey's birthday that day, and it was John McNamee's birthday that day. And by the end of the game in Budapest, we all thought it was all our birthdays because we won the cup. It was a wonderful, wonderful, magic feeling, and everybody come together. I think perhaps the only slight sadness, it would have been nice to have won it at St James's Park if the 2 legs had been the other way around, so the ground had been full of Geordies. But it was exceptional. And at the time, Steve, I didn't think I was going to have this long wait for something. In '66, I'd reported on England winning the World Cup. 2 years later, Newcastle were on the way to winning a European Cup. I thought, this is fabulous. I'm living in the land of the Wizard of Oz. My life's going to be blessed. And neither England or Newcastle United's won a single thing since. But as I've said many times, and I've said it on here, I've cancelled dying because I refuse to go till I see Newcastle win something again. And by the way, I'm not going to die on Monday if we win. I'll think I'm in heaven, but I'm not going to die because we're going to win some other things as well. This is just the beginning. This is going to be the opening of the doors to let all the sunlight in on what the future of Newcastle United is. Let's go down to Wembley, enjoy the day, and there'll be fans as old as me that will remember '69. But there will be fans of your generation that probably didn't see '69 and even younger now who are going to feel that wonderful feeling for the first time. On a domestic trophy, Steve, there's all the guys that won the domestic trophies for Newcastle United. There's none of them alive now. They're all dead, bless them, because it was 1955, our last one. The '69 team, the last one to win any sort of trophy. There's a couple dead, and the rest are old age pensioners like myself. So it's far too long for a club of our stature to go without a trophy. We're 1 match away, we're an hour and a half away, maybe it's 2 hours if we needed extra time. That's all we can smell it, we can touch it, we can feel it. We're so close. It's despite the problems we have. We're in a much better position than 2 years ago when we were quite naive. We were just building the side. It wasn't quite the same. I mean, Isak was a sub 2 years ago. He's now the best centre forward in Europe. So it is a different world. Let's grasp the nettle while the chance is there. I mean, these lads may think they know what it's going to be like to win a trophy on behalf of Newcastle. Bruno talks about how it's his dying wish. But by Jove, if they do it, they'll find out what adulation and permanent being an idol and an icon for the rest of your life is going to be about if they win a trophy. They don't know what's waiting for them. I do, because I saw it in '69, and I talked so often to Jackie Milburn about it, who did it 3 times in the early '50s. Really, paradise is just round the corner from Wembley.
Let's get a prediction then, John. I am going for a Newcastle United win in extra time. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I've been thinking penalties all the way through, but I think a 2-1 win for Newcastle in extra time. Isak to get both goals.
Well, I would never agree, even if I thought we had no chance, and I don't think that. I wouldn't, at a stage when we're in the final, be able to find it myself to forecast Newcastle lose in the final. I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I don't think it'll happen. I think it'll be incredibly tight, but I don't mind if it's an 89th minute winner, or it's a 120th minute winner, or it's the last penalty of a shootout. Although I'll be absolutely on the floor with my nails bitten halfway up the top of my arms if it was that way. But I think we'll win a very, very close fought, probably like you. I would take a 2-1, I think. And it may be in 90 minutes, it may be at extra time. I don't care. I think Isak will get one of them. I've got a feeling he won't get the both. Somebody else might get it. Isak might get the winner. Isak can become our Jackie Milburn. We've had wonderful centre forwards like Shearer and Supermac since War Jackie. Unbelievable knowing how great those guys were. They didn't win any trophy for Newcastle. They both played. Supermac played in 2 Wembley finals. Shearer played in 2 Wembley finals. Didn't win anything. Isak can do better than them. He can actually go to Wembley and win something. And it doesn't matter what number's on his back. As far as we are concerned, he's a number 9 legend. And let him grasp it with both hands. I'm taking Newcastle to win.
Gibbo, enjoy it. See you next week, mate. Take care.
God bless. Keep the faith, my boy. Keep the faith.